This is my research presentation on anticipated and anticipatory nostalgia's effect on upperclassmen high school students. So first, what is anticipatory and what are anticipatory and anticipated nostalgia? As Baccio defines, anticipatory nostalgia is defined as a feeling of loss from the current moment as if it has already passed. Anticipatory nostalgia was separated from anticipated nostalgia because it specifically has to do with this feeling of loss or removal from your situation. Anticipated nostalgia is having nostalgic feelings for one's present and future experiences. It is much more broad in its application, but it's differentiated because it does not have to relate with one single emotion. So into my little review, how are these used in the human brain? So Kurtz, a researcher in temporal scarcity, which is a topic that is heavily related to anticipatory and anticipated nostalgia, which I will cover later, helped to create a connection between anticipation for the end of experience and the feelings one experiences in that moment. This I used as my parent study, and I used it as a way to help broaden her applications into a field of anticipated and anticipatory nostalgia. Something found by another researcher, Baccio, is that anticipatory nostalgia has a tendency to be used for self-affirming feelings. This could be seen in examples such as being in a bad moment currently and feeling those will get better, and that would be using anticipatory nostalgia. Or it can be seen in the idea that you will fully live in the moments that you're in because you're scared of those fleeting moments, as shown by Bess. And it was shown to, in your brain, be used to create identity by building yourself with your community and your current environment. Specifically in the Baccio study, it showed people could experience anticipatory nostalgia through the stories of another, and then get from those stories ways to cope with their feelings of anxiety. So the study's effects, it heavily relates to various emotional effects. Since there are two different things, anticipatory nostalgia is seen with more adverse emotional effects. Although it has to do with coping mechanisms, it is generally related to a feeling of not belonging or anxiety, while anticipated nostalgia usually has an opposite effect, where people feel more appreciative for the moment they are in or experiencing. Both, however, are related to the fact that you are having reluctance to let go of your current moment and have a heavy attachment to that current moment. All these studies related that nostalgia is part of pre-existing conditions, and this is kind of obvious when you take into consideration that you're just looking retrospectively at your current life. However, this leads to my gap that all these studies only focused on college students, and there has been no research done in anticipatory and anticipated nostalgia on high school students, which led me to ask the question of how does anticipatory and anticipated nostalgia affect the upperclassmen high school experience? I chose upperclassmen because I thought they would be predisposed to anticipatory nostalgia and anticipated nostalgia because they would have already maybe thought about leaving high school. And more specifically on my question, I want to find whether if temporal thinking, which I will get to in a bit, would cause these students to feel these types of nostalgias. And this was important to me because I feel that, and the general population, because I feel that if we were able to learn from these nostalgic experiences in our brain, we'd be able to more fully incorporate ourselves in the community that we are in and more fully understand our purpose. So I've been talking about temporal scarcity and just temporal in general, but what does it mean? Temporal scarcity is a feeling of you have a limited time left in a certain situation. This is heavily related to the creation of prompts of anticipated and anticipatory nostalgia because it primes people in thinking in a nostalgic way because they think they are going to lose something. Pointed out by Dr. Furman, hard name to say, when primed for nostalgic thinking, the subject will become aware of their temporal essence, essentially just they will think of themselves time-based instead of just thinking of themselves as like physically. Through this connection, research is able to create conditions in which anticipated and anticipatory nostalgia will be formed in the mind for authentic results. And my parent study, in which I based my method on, was Kurt's study on temporal scarcity. I saw that through her temporal scarcity study that it was heavily related to anticipatory and anticipated nostalgia because it related to people, college students, thinking of how much time they had left at their school and how they were related to their current friends, the environment, and their activities that they were involved in. And so this gets me into my method. My method was a 10-minute writing questionnaire. That was the same thing that Kurt's did. I had a total of 15 participants, unlike her 75. And each of them were given 3 questions geared towards my population. And I went through multiple coding levels to try and find themes through the coding. And there was no follow-up interview, unlike Kurt's study, because of time restraints. So these are the 3 questions that I asked. Given how little time you have left at high school, write how you feel about your friends here. Given how little time you have left at high school, write about how you feel about your overall high school experience. And given how little time you have left at high school, how do you feel about your activities you participate in here? The beginning of each of them gets students in a temporal mind frame with the given how little time you have left, making them think nostalgically about their experience at high school. And then each of the remainder of the prompts were used to code for different parts of anticipatory nostalgia, anticipated nostalgia, and temporal thinking, which you can see in my code book with my 3 major themes being temporal, nostalgic, and feelings. Each of these was taken from a different study. Kurt's was the nostalgic codes, Zhao was the feelings codes, Kurt's was the temporal codes, Baccio was the nostalgic codes. And I went through each, first getting a general theme, applying the writings to a general theme, and then I would go through each of them and assign them a specific sub-theme. So my results, I made 3 major narratives and 2 sub-narratives. The major narratives I'll get to in a bit, but the sub-narratives were the ones that were supported by previous research, in that the feelings of detachedness from their current start in high school. This was supported by Baccio in anticipatory nostalgia, and then Zhao found that language used, such as referring to the present as if it was the past, would point to anticipated nostalgia. So, my first major theme was relation back to the beginning of high school. This mostly cited signs of anticipatory nostalgia, specifically because it referred to belonging to the past and the present, as Baccio pointed out in her definition. Most of these students were seniors, however, there were a couple juniors that fell into this category. Most of these responses related to the themes of about not belonging in high school anymore and of longing to return to their freshman year to change something or advise themselves to change something in a certain way. This is what I related to anticipatory nostalgia, could suggest that seniors are more prone to the anticipatory nostalgic thinking and may be more cynical of their experience in high school, as they felt that they did not belong in their environment when they are thinking about it. Second is independence from their current condition. Connected to this idea of seniors being more prone to anticipatory nostalgia, all 5 of my seniors that I studied, and none of the juniors, showed a strong sense of independence from their friends through either identifications of feelings of pride or feeling that they will, quote, will drift away from their friendships. This relates to the idea, again, of not belonging. Seniors, when presented with prompts to think nostalgically and temporally about their current situation, were more likely to look forward with either resent or separation from their current condition, with several seniors saying they felt independent from high school in their relationships. This was interesting to me because it contradicted the ideas shown in Kurt's study that the high schoolers or her college students would be more appreciative of their high school experience, but that might be because Kurt's was more longitudinally based and mine was a single questionnaire. And then finally, the last major theme was adverse experiences of hopefulness. This was shown through all of the group. It showed, I thought, a very interesting trend of when they were talking about their future hopes and future friends and activities, they would make a significant drawback and go back to their current friends and missing them. This mostly showed up in the third question, which was, given how little time you have left at high school, how do you feel about your activities you participate here? This could relate to anticipated nostalgia, that although they are happy for their future, they're realizing how much time they have left and are realizing that they must revel in this limited amount of time they have left in their high school experience. So, in discussion, I concluded that high schoolers, especially seniors, are more prone to this way of thinking, especially anticipatory nostalgic ways of thinking, and that juniors may have different approaches that I wasn't able to see in my codebook. I hypothesize that this is because seniors have spent more time thinking about their relationships as their time in high school comes to a close, and thus would have already formed the self-soothing mechanisms that Baccio had pointed out in her anticipatory nostalgia research. However, there would need to be more research to prove that this is definitively the case. I just lost my complete train of thought. Upperclassmen, as shown through my results and related to the studies that I presented in my lit review, will most definitely have or will show signs of nostalgic thinking in their experiences, but this might be less than more influential moments of their life. In conclusion, my implications, my sample size was quite small, although it was pointed to be significant enough to find patterns, as shown by Meadows' research in 2021. It was still pretty small to apply or extrapolate on. My demographics was only a male population, which excludes all females. There could be research bias, since I had to do an IRB. These people knew what anticipatory nostalgia and anticipated nostalgia was beforehand, and may have changed their responses to better situate what they think I wanted. And then for further research, I would suggest larger sample sizes in high school specifically, and then longitudinal studies to further see if the effects seen in Kurt's study and Zhao's study would continue on in high schoolers.